Hey friends, Tassi here with Kreenpananas Gaming. I finally got my hands on Tchia. It's been on my wish list for a while now. Thank you to Kepler Interactive for the review key. Pack your swim trunks, get ready for a soulful adventure through a stunning tropical paradise with Tchia, the second game out of the indie game dev team Awaceb. Tchia beautifully renders a setting inspired by New Caledonia, birthplace of Awaceb's co-founders, and it fills it with some memorable characters. As someone who grew up in the South Pacific, I was immediately drawn to Tchia's beautiful world and resonant characters. The game's seamless exploration and ukulele playing mechanics make for an immersive experience that not only transported me into the world of Tchia, but also took me back down memory lane as a wee island boy. It's an open world game that actually gives you the tools and motivation to explore and not get too bogged down on overly complex iconography and UI distractions. But what truly sets Tchia apart is the way it showcases an underrepresented culture and community, something that I personally find extremely important. There's no ifs or buts about it. Tchia is a superb entry into the genre, and I'm going to spend the next 13 minutes gushing about it. And while it's nowhere near perfect, it's a kick-ass adventure that showcases the best of what indie gaming has to offer. And I just enjoyed the heck out of it. Let's jump in. It didn't take long for me to get hooked because of its playful and inventive gameplay mechanics. While Tchia's jumping may feel a bit floaty at first, it's actually intentional and designed to create a frictionless traversal experience that's different from what you might expect from, say, a traditional 3D platformer. The more I played, the more I came to appreciate Tchia's approach to moving through the world. In addition to the ability to jump and climb onto just about anything, through her special ability of soul jumping, I found myself constantly experimenting with different animals and objects to discover new ways of moving through the archipelago. Listen, why walk when you can swim? Why swim when you can fly? Why fly when you can tumble down a hill as a rock? Anyway, more on that in a little bit. Navigating this tropical open world, and I can't stress that word enough, tropical, yes, is quite a joy. As Tchia, you'll have access to a little boat given to you by one of the characters which propel you into the rest of the game. Awaceb has done a great job keeping seafaring engaging. It takes some getting used to, but I don't feel it punishes the player for not being exact. On the raft, you'll be able to pick up speed or slow down with the sail, steer with the rudder, or come to a complete stop with the anchor. With an ever-growing selection of games that feature fast seascapes, Tchia's boat system is a joy because it just works. There's also this exhilarating soundtrack that fuels your journey and further reinforces this epic oceanic odyssey as you explore the archipelago. It's so cool. Listen, do you want to cruise next to dolphins? Check. You want to drop anchor and swim for sunken treasure? Check. Does the sound of crashing waves and ocean spray excite you? Check. You run your raft aground? Don't worry. Tchia's got the muscle. Check it out. I'd like to praise the developers for designing a tiered system of wayfinding. I find they've struck an acceptable balance in the usage of maps and minimaps. What, you didn't think that was a thing? It's a thing! Alright, check out Rasputin's video essay diving into that topic when you get a chance. I'll leave a link below. Awaceb allows you to orient with the map system in 3 ways. The first one brings up the map and fills your entirety of your screen, complete with points of interest, camp locations, discovered areas, all things you would expect from this genre. The second option slides a portion of the map onto the screen, almost like a brochure, allowing you to maintain a course if you were, say sailing and needed a quick reference of your location. And the third way places your compass on the screen, which ultimately was how I preferred to play. I don't know, it just gave me enough information to keep me on task, but also the freedom to wander off the path if something caught my attention. And boy, were there things that caught my attention. Ooh, shiny! It's also worth noting that using the locate self feature approximates your whereabouts rather than give you the precise point on the map. All of this to ensure that you're always motivated to continue exploring. There were still moments when I wished zooming in and out of the map was a bit snappier, while simultaneously wanting the edge scrolling to be a bit more responsive. But it works. While Tchia is a game that stands on its own, I couldn't help but delight when I noticed mechanics that seem inspired by other beloved titles. There's a brilliant on-screen stamina indicator displayed as a thunderbolt that dynamically shifts color in relation to the environment you're in. Oh, and Link's paraglider, appropriately translated into Tchia as a woven parachute of sorts. Both things inspired by Zelda's Breath of the Wild and purposely fit for Tchia. For those familiar with Super Mario Odyssey's Cap Throw, you'll be treated to Tchia's soul jumping ability, but this time with a much broader selection of objects and animals to inhabit, complete with their own unique abilities. Seriously, it's super useful. And finally, what open world is complete without the ability to survey the land from a vantage point that's so ubiquitous in this genre? The map synchronization. Indeed, these titles are great places to draw inspiration from, and Tchia does so in a way that feels fresh and unique and contributes to the soul of its gameplay. Tchia is mostly a game of exploration, but on many occasions you'll encounter camps of baddies which are more or less possessed fabric eager to choke you out. Combat scenarios never felt like they overstayed, and once you got the hang of the soul jumping mechanic, doling out island justice played out like a Max Payne bullet time romp, except with coconuts instead of bullets and gas canisters in place of grenades. These camps do eventually graduate to fortresses that bump up the difficulty level, though systems are in place to make that quite forgiving. Dying just sends you back to your last spawn camp, and fall damage isn't terribly punishing. A Souls game, this is not. I'll talk about some of the accessibility options soon. Despite acquiring a slingshot early in the game, I didn't find myself particularly in need of it outside of the shooting range minigame. I'm not sure if that's because I prefer to use a keyboard and mouse when playing games that require accuracy, or if there just wasn't as many situations that called for it. You'll get plenty of opportunities to practice your aim if you dip into the shooting range minigame, which is introduced to you early in your adventure. I quite like the selection of minigames they've included, some more than others. I kept returning to the claw game, which amused me when I realized that in order to play it, you'll have to pay in trophies which you get from the other games. Regardless of which trophy you deposit, you'll get 3 turns at the claw. These claw machines are another chance to improve your library of cosmetics. Oh, look how cute this is! Look at it! Ah! These skins and character changes do show up in your cutscenes in addition to the time of day you encounter them. Important to note if small things like this make or break your sense of immersion. Look, I'm absolutely for being able to see the changes you've made to your character show up in the cutscenes because, well, that just feels rewarding and it's an excellent incentive. But I also wish that for the scenes when Tchia consumes food that, well, let me show you. Another minor gripe I've come to feel is that sometimes I'd prefer to experience the cutscenes with a different time of day as it would afford more lighting on the characters. Speaking of time, thank you so much for spending yours here on this channel and of course watching this video. If you've enjoyed this and want to continue this relationship, make sure you're soul jumping into that subscribe and let me know what indie games you're looking forward to playing. Back to what I was saying. Changing the time of day isn't just restricted to sleeping in a bed or camp like in other games. No, Tchia actually has abilities tied to her ukulele that lets you do a great number of things, one of which is to change the time of day. Amazing. And while I could do that before a cutscene, it isn't always convenient. Alright, you're probably saying, Kreen, Mr. Kreen, get to the story. Alright, the story in Tchia, much like the waters and mountains that make up the landscape, has its highs and lows. My overall impression of it was, well, okay, imagine you're playing in a sandbox, right? And you're making space, but before you could fully fill that space, you're whisked away. Yeah, something like that. Okay, it's not that it missed its mark, it's just that it fell short in some places. There were some story elements that felt rushed or incomplete with little payoff before moving you on to the next plot point. Aside from the Pixar-esque intro cutscene that serves as a type of bookend or format, the story hits the ground running and you're set off exploring your surroundings. Soon you're introduced to a rather one-dimensional villain, set off on your grand adventure set forth before you, and a collection system that doesn't always have strong connections to the character. On the other hand, I love that they included New Caledonian talent to fill in the roster of characters. All the cutscenes are fully voiced and include a mix of Drehu and French. Now, it's worth noting that these aren't the only 2 languages spoken on New Caledonia, just the 2 present in the fictionalized version. Because like many of the island nations that populate the South Pacific, they've been subjected to colonialism and everything that goes with it as far back as the 1800s. If nothing else, I'm happy for the game to exist because the sheer will to tell these stories is a feat. And if even one person walks away after playing this eager to learn about this culture or many of the others that inhabit the South Pacific, I'd call that successful storytelling. I'd like to take a moment to offer a hat tip to the team at Awaceb for putting in the effort to enrich the game's other character, New Caledonia, or rather the fictionalized version of it. After spending some time sliding, gliding, and being a rightful menace, I can definitely say that New Caledonia is its own character. To make this a reality, the team even flew out there for research. Now let's be real, probably some really yummy home-cooked meals. There's a wonderful 3-part series on their YouTube channel documenting that experience, and you don't have to go very far into the company website to see there are a bunch of creative people who want to make a difference in ways they're able to. I'll leave a link to their website and YouTube channel below. I highly recommend you check them out, go support them, tweet at them, all of that good stuff. I mentioned earlier that you meet a wide host of characters as you island hop, and while not every person you meet is someone you can directly interact with, the inclusion of chat bubbles over NPCs gave a sense of aliveness, a sense of community. The archipelago is also home to many cats and dogs, and you'll be pleased to know that you can pet each and every single one of them, even if you have to pick them up first to make that option available. Working as intended, am I right? Despite the sometimes uninspired writing, the amount of times this game made me smile from ear to ear cannot be understated. Beneath the cartoonish exterior, there's a lot of dark humor present, and I like that. There are moments that rang true to me as someone raised on an island that I'm just happy the rest of the gaming world gets to experience. There are so many visual references that link back to personal memories, like the coconut crabs and the mangroves, and all the motifs that found their way into the cosmetics. There are literally hundreds of unlockable outfits, useful items, and abilities that make Tchia feel so immersive and rewarding, despite a narrative that doesn't always fulfill its potential. Speaking of customization, the character and the boat aren't the only things you can tweak. Awaceb went the extra mile to ensure that Tchia is a game that can be enjoyed by as many people as possible. It includes accessibility features like family mode, which adjusts the aforementioned visually mature side of the game. You're also given an FOV slider and ways to change button inputs if you prefer to experience the game in ways that suit you. Finally, and this is a big one, they've allowed you to skip portions of gameplay so you can experience it as a story without the interruption of having to manage the game's other activities. Wow, power to the gamer. Tchia may not hit all the check marks if innovation is your sole metric, but man, it's so abundantly clear to me that Awaceb poured their hearts and talent into this project, and what emerged is a game that sings with soul and stands on its own. I have no doubts it will ignite the imagination of so many future storytellers who might be keen on sharing their own stories. And you know what? I'm here for it. A very special thanks to my Patreon supporters who helped make this video possible. Your patronage goes such a long way. They go towards helping keep the lights on, getting some of my immediate needs met, and also making me feel warm and fuzzy. Please consider checking out my page using the link in the description. You can also check out the other 2 videos on your screen right here. Feel free to pick whichever one looks interesting to you. Shout out to Lauren Doyle for that generous tier 5 support. See you on the next video.